Hello everyone, my name is Ankit Shrivastava and today I am discussing how we are going to create Amazon S3 bucket and how we can load the data files from our Amazon S3 bucket into Amazon Redshift data warehouse. Okay, so let's understand this use case first. So if in your project you are using AWS and in AWS specifically you are using your Amazon S3 bucket as a source system for your files, different file formats, and Amazon Redshift as your data warehouse. So to all people who are very new to AWS services, Amazon S3 is nothing but a simple storage services. So basically, in most of the project, this Amazon S3 are treated as a data lake, okay, where we are keeping our unstructured, structured, and semi-structured data, okay, and we can also have our files in different formats like csv .txt and etc. Okay, and now the use case today we will be covering is we will be creating the S3 bucket, then we will be uploading the file to Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, now once we are done with creating a bucket and loading the files, we will be creating this Amazon AWS IAM role. Okay, IAM role is nothing but identity and access management. Okay, and then we will create a Redshift data warehouse in which we will be creating one table with distribution key and sort key on that table, and then we will see how we can copy the data files from this Amazon S3 bucket to our Amazon Redshift. Okay, and once the data load is done, we again share the data files loaded in our Redshift table to S3 bucket for our downstream teams for different reporting purposes. Okay, so hope this use case is pretty much clear. Okay, so now quickly jump on AWS Management Console for check for creating our S3 bucket as well as the different Redshift services. Okay, so let's quickly jump here. So once you log in into your Management Console, you will be landing on this page. In case you are not landing on this particular page, then you can directly go to this search bar and type S3. Okay, so here S3 will come up and you just need to click on this S3. Okay, now you can see you have the option of creating a S3 bucket. Okay, so let's click on S3 bucket. You can give any unique bucket name. Okay, so I will give S3 Redshift bucket. Okay, files, S3 Redshift bucket files. Okay, now you need to specify the reason. Okay, so you can select any reason, but uh, to have a very minimum latency, it's preferable to choose the region which is nearest to your location. Okay, now we will go down and we will use the service by default services. Okay, so that we will be mostly into our free tier part. Okay, and we will directly click on this create button, create bucket. Okay, now our bucket will be created. Okay, so here you can see S3 Redshift bucket files are created. Okay, now here what we will do, let's upload one file. Okay, so that file we will use further in our Redshift tables. Okay, to copy the data. So for understanding purpose, I have already created one file. So let me show you. So this is a small file which is having ID and name, and the details are like ID is 1, name is Ankit, ID is 2, and name is Varun. Okay, so let me upload this file. So I need to click on upload, then it will take me to this window. Here we need to click on this add files, and you can see wherever your file is present. So for me, I have kept this file in my AWS practice folder. I will simply click on, and then I will click on this upload button. Okay, now my file is uploaded here, correct? So if you close it, then you can see that your S3 data.txt file is uploaded into your bucket. Okay, S3 Redshift BKT bucket. Okay, hope this is clear. Now, what we will do, we will go for creating an IAM role, right? So we need to just search IAM here in the search box. Then we need to click on the IAM. Now, here you can see you have different options like user, group, roles, and policies. So first we will click on roles. Okay. Now, if you have already created role, you can just search here. If not, if you want to create a new role, then you just need to click on this create role button. So once you click on that button, you will be navigated to this page. So we will not go for changing the role types. Okay, we will go for by default services only. Okay, now here it says use case for other AWS services. So here we are creating this IAM for Redshift. So we will simply type Redshift. Okay, so once you click on Redshift, you have three different options like customizable, Redshift, and Redshift scheduler. Now here this IAM role, we will select Redshift customizable. Okay, and then we will click on next. Now here you will get the list of policies. So my requirement is I want to load the data from S3 to Redshift, and also I want to load the data from Redshift to S3 bucket, correct? So I want full access, that means read and write access, correct? Both on S3 as well as on Redshift, correct? So I will search for the policy S3 full access. Okay. So here if you type simply S3 full access, you will get the policy name. So you just need to select this checkbox. Okay. Now you have selected S3 full access. Now we want we want Redshift full access as well, correct? So again, we will write Redshift full. Okay. So we will get this policy as well, which says Amazon Redshift full access. That means we will be able to read and write both on Redshift, correct? And also here on the very first line, you can see the permission policies that it says you have selected two policies out of 814. Okay. Now, as we have both the policies, we can directly go down and click on next button. Now you have to give a role name here. Okay. So you can give any role name you want. Okay. So I will keep as role S3 to Redshift and vice versa, right? So this is my role name. Now I will go down, I will check the policy. So I can see that my Amazon Redshift full access policy is present and my Amazon S3 full access, right? So both Redshift and S3 full access policies has been attached to this particular role. And now finally I will click on this create role button. So once I click on this button, my role with both the policies are created. Okay. So if you want to check, so you can just click on this Redshift role, sorry, and you can check into the policies that both the policies has been associated with this particular role, right? Hope this is clear. Now, our third part is we need to go and create a Redshift tables. Okay. So let's type Redshift here in the search box. Okay. And we need to go to Redshift. So once we click on that, we will be landing on this particular page. Okay, so here it says directly you can try Amazon Redshift serverless. So we will directly click on this and we will create one Amazon Redshift serverless cluster. Okay, so let's click on this and see what is the option we are getting. So here it says get started with Amazon Redshift serverless, right? So here we will select this customizable settings. Okay, because we have to do some operations from like copying the data from S3 files to Redshift, and again unloading the data from Redshift tables to S3 bucket, right? So here we will just select this customizable settings, and we have to provide few details like namespace and work group. So here a namespace name it is asking, either you can keep it as it is, so it will be having name as default. Okay, and the purpose of this namespace is like, it is namespace is basically a collection of database objects and users. Okay, now if you go down, it is asking for associate IAM roles, right? So we have already created one IAM role, correct? So what we need to do is we need to associate that IAM role with this Amazon Redshift, right? So I will simply click on this option and I will associate that role. Even in case you haven't created any IAM role, you can also directly create IAM role from here itself, correct? But as I have already created it, so I will just click on this associate IAM roles and I will associate this role to this Redshift cluster. Okay, so this is my role S3 to Redshift and vice versa, and I will associate it. Okay, so here the status is currently not applied. Okay, but we have to sync this role with this Redshift, right? So what we will do, we will go down again. Here we have the work group, so we won't give any name, as we have only one cluster, so it will take the name as default. And this work group is nothing but it consists of different compute properties. Okay, so if you go down, here you can see that you have an option called save configuration. Okay, so once you click on this save configuration, you can see this, your status has been synced with this. I mean, basically your IAM role is in sync with this Amazon Redshift cluster. Okay, so let's click on save configuration. Okay, so it will take couple of minutes to to get your Redshift cluster ready. Okay, so meanwhile we will discuss what are the different options we are going to uh, perform here. Okay, now once our Redshift cluster is ready, we the very first prerequisite of copying the data from my S3 bucket to Amazon Redshift table is we need to have a very similar structure of the table. We need, basically we need a very similar structure of the table what we have in our file. So let's say in our, as you remember, in our file we were having two columns, ID and name, correct? So we need a table with the same data type, right? Columns and data types, correct? So that there won't be any issue while loading the data. So in case if you have a mismatch in your table columns, file columns and your table columns, you will be getting an error message. Okay, so to avoid this, we will create a table in our Redshift with a similar structure, okay, and the data type. Now let's wait for a couple of minutes so that uh, our Redshift cluster will be ready for us to use. Okay, so I will pause the video for a couple of minutes, and once the Redshift cluster is ready, I will again resume the video. Okay, okay, so our Redshift cluster is ready, and I just click on the continue button, and once I clicked on continue button, I have this window. Okay, so here you can see the Redshift serverless cluster is created, and then we have a namespace and the work group associated with it. Okay, so here you can see once you create a serverless cluster, you will be having $300 as a free credit, and based on the uses, this $300 will be deducted. But for learning purpose, $300 is more than enough. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, now our aim is to first create the Redshift table. Okay, so here we will click on these three lines, okay, on the left hand side. So once we click on this, we have different options. So what we will do, we will go for query editor v2. Okay, once you click on this query editor, you will be landing to this page. Okay, now what we will do, we have already created one, we have already created few tables for the practice purpose. So what I will do, just to avoid any syntax error, I will use this already inserted syntax, table syntax. Okay. So to connect this, I will click on this arrow button. So our dev cluster serverless default is connected with the our dev database. Okay. Here also we can see that our serverless default is connected and the database is dev. Okay. Now what we will do, we do not have any tables here, right? If you see here, we don't have any tables listed, correct? Everywhere we can see 000, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create one table here, okay, with ID and name, as very similar to my file data. Okay. So let's execute this. Okay. Now if you see here, this query is executed, and if we execute this, there is no row, correct? Now our first use case is, I have to copy the data from the file, right, which is present in my S3 bucket, correct? So my name of the S3 bucket is, let me confirm. So I'm going to S3 bucket. Okay. Now this is the S3 bucket name and this is the file name, right? So what I will do, I will directly copy this S3 URL with the file. Okay. So no, here I need just my S3 bucket. Okay. So this is my S3 bucket, right? And the file name is s3 data.txt, which is correct, right? S3 data.txt, correct? So, and now what we are going to do, we have to check this IAM role, right? So from where we will get the IAM details? What I will do, I will go to search and simply type IAM, and I will open it into the next window so that I don't have to navigate every time. Okay. And from here I'll go to roles, and this is basically my role. I'll click on this role and I will copy this ARN. Okay, this particular ARN. So basically this role is having two policies attached to it, full access of S3 and full access of Redshift, right? So I will simply copy and paste this role. Okay. Now what what are the different syntaxes here? So what I am doing here, I am copying, my copy is basically a command, and I'm copying into this table emp test s3 redshift. And from where we are copying, so we are copying it from this particular s3 file having name as s3.data.txt. Okay. Now I'm providing the IAM role, okay, which is having different policies attached to it, and I am going to ignore the header, right? Because this file is having header, and we have already created a table with the same structure, so we don't need header here, correct? So I will simply write ignore header. Okay. And the line number is 1, and then the delimiter. So in this file the delimiter is comma, right? So we are going to write the delimiter. Let me execute this and see what is the output we are getting. Okay, so it says the query completed successfully. So let me execute this table and see whether we have data or not. Yes. So now we can see that we have data in this table, right? So here what we have done, here we have copied the data from our S3 bucket into this emp test S3 redshift table, correct? Right? So this is clear. Now the vice versa case. Let's say I have to unload this data and copy it back to S3. So what is the reason behind it? So in most of the cases, what we do, once we load our data into our redshift tables, say dimension and fact tables, again we have to share those data with our downstream team for reporting purposes, right? So they are going to consume those data files for their reporting purposes, correct? Now, what is the syntax here? So syntax is very simple. Unload is a keyword, okay? And after unload, you have to write the select statement, that is your SQL query, that what exactly you want the data in your file. Okay, so I am simply written here, I have simply written select star from emp test s3 redshift. So I'm pulling all the data from and all the column from this particular table. Right now, what we are doing here, we are unloading this data from this table to this location, correct? So let me copy this same path, right? And what we will do, s3 data, we will make it as output. Okay, so my output file will have this name, s3 data output, right? So for make it redshift data output. Okay, now we are going to give this IAM role. Okay, and we are going to give this parallel of. I'll show you what exactly this parallel of means. Okay, first I will execute these 3 lines and we'll see into data into redshift that sorry, in s3 bucket, that what is the different files we are getting. Okay, so currently if you see here, we have only one bucket, right? And in our bucket we have just one file, correct? Now let me execute this and see. So once we execute this, let's go to s3 bucket and see, refresh it and see what is the different files we are getting. So here you can see there are n number of files, mostly with 0 bytes, right? And you have only one 8-byte file. So that means we have, so basically there are multiple slices, okay, in our compute nodes, and based on those number of slices we are getting the different parts, different files, okay, with the 0 byte. So let's handle this in our query itself, right? So first we will, what we will do, we will delete this all the files, okay, so that there won't be any confusion, and I will keep this s3 data txt files. Okay, so to delete this we just need to select it, and you have to come here and you need to write permanently delete. Okay, then only you will be able to delete the files. So nothing is going to be done accidentally, right? Until and unless you are intentionally deleting it. So let's click on delete object. So here you can see now we have only one file s3 data object. Okay, so here we have added the keyword called parallel of, right? So if we execute this with parallel of, now let's see what is happening. See, this is that file is again loaded to our s3 bucket, right? So here let's check the data in this file. Okay, so here you need to select this and just download it. Okay, so let me go to downloads option and see what is the output we are getting here. Perfect, right? So this is what we are getting in the output, right? So 2 Varun and 1 Ankit, right? So this is how we are going to load the data from our s3 bucket to redshift, and from redshift again we have to unload the data and load it into our s3, correct? Hope this makes sense to you. And one very important thing is that once you are done with the practice, kindly go to s3 bucket and delete your bucket, and also you need to delete your redshift cluster, okay, so that down the line you won't be charged. Okay, so hope you like this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.